Hey everyone, I'm Pat Keegan and welcome back to the DIY Home Build channel. A lot of you have written in with comments and questions and sent me emails and posted comments about asking where can I get pre-finished plywood. And the reality is I don't know of any chain carrier like Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards that actually carries the pre-finished maple plywood that we use on a lot of our cabinet and built-in projects for the interior of the cabinets. Oftentimes, whether the exterior is stained and polyurethane or painted, it's nice to have a light finished interior to the cabinet. And I've mentioned before that it's very, time is money, so I would rather pay to get the additional, it's about $25 a sheet of plywood additional cost to get it pre-finished. It comes pre-finished on both sides, which is kind of a waste because you often don't need the second side to be pre-finished at all. But it's not really carried by the big box stores. I just happen to be fortunate enough to have a local supplier that's close to me that carries it. And I always keep a lot on hand here in the shop. When I go pick up a few pieces for a job, I'll pick up a few more just to make sure I have them. So this video is dedicated for you folks who want to have pre-finished plywood but don't have it readily accessible to you. And I thought I would put this video together to kind of show you at least one formula that you can use to finish your plywood very quickly for the insides of your cabinets. And you can finish it before you do anything to it, before you make holes for shelves or even cut it to size. I have a sheet here that's basically 2 feet by 8 feet, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how I finish it to give it kind of that pre-finished look, if you will. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put on 2 coats of wax-free shellac. And the shellac is it's an alcohol-based product. It actually comes from a bug. I've done the lac bug actually. And I've done a video on finishing before, so if you want to go watch that, you can watch that to learn a little bit more about using shellac as a sealer. I don't usually use shellac at all as a finish coat product because it doesn't really have the same durability as a polyurethane does. But it's a great undercoat for stains before you put on a stain, to level out any blotching effect that the stain has, that it might have on the wood that you're using. And it's also good as a sealer. It's an alcohol-based product, as I said, so it really penetrates very deeply into the wood and seals it very nicely to prepare it for your top coat. So I'm going to just show you very quickly. This is exactly the same product. Again, it's off the shelf at a Home Depot or a Lowe's or a Menards. I try to show you as many of those as I can, so that if you don't have the places to go to get special stuff and you don't want to order it, you can certainly use this. I always try to make sure that the shellac is wax free on there, and this is just Bullseye seal coat. It's a sanding sealer. It's just wax free shellac. I use this when I seal plywood if I'm going to finish it, and clear finish. And I also use it if I thin it out with 1-to-1 ratio of this stuff and alcohol to kind of thin it out a little bit, to use as an undercoat for blotchy woods to prevent blotchy stains. So this is what I use. It's just like I said, a wax-free shellac. I'm going to just use this because there's a little bit left in here. And then what I'm going to do, since these are going to be used in the inside of cabinets, do not use oil-based polyurethane. I highly recommend you not to use the oil-based, because the oil-based evaporates for a long time. It cures over many years actually. And you can finish the insides of your cabinets with an oil-based polyurethane, and then 3 months later, if you don't open the cabinet for a while and you open it up, you're going to get that smell of oil-based polyurethane coming out at you. So I tend to use a water-based. You can use, this, polyurethane. You can use, this is Varathane satin finish. I always use a satin finish on this stuff. You can use, Minwax has a polyacrylic I think, or something. You can use that. You can use this Parks, it's a Pro Finisher. It's a polyurethane for floors. And I essentially just do a couple of coats of this and 2 to 3 coats of this, and you're perfectly fine. So what I kind of use to spread it out is you can get these little pads if you want to use them. You want to do this very quickly because this should be a quick operation. You don't want to hold up your shop for 6 weeks while you got plywood boards everywhere drying for the inside of your cabinets. So you can use these little styrofoam backed pads, or you can get something a little bit fancier like this. I've used both. They're totally fine. For this project, I'm just going to use the little disposable pads, and we can start by cracking open the can of the shellac, the wax-free shellac. And when I'm doing this kind of stuff, I just like to use a paper plate. They're cheap, and I don't feel as bad about throwing them away and creating the garbage. And you just kind of want to pour this in there, enough to get it started here. And then, go to town on it. Dip this in and just, go, I should probably move this out of the way here. And kind of just go back and forth from one end to the other, nice and easy. And I'm going to put this stuff up here. And just make sure it's very coated. Now, coated pretty well. Now, the cool thing about, sorry about that, not really prepared. Just want to jump in and get it done. So the cool thing about this method that I'm showing you is it's very solid. It's going to last a long time. It's protective on the inside of your cabinets, and it's fast. And so shellac is an alcohol-based product, as I mentioned, but it dries very fast. I mean, almost by the time I'm done putting this coat on, I'll be able to just go back from the beginning almost and start right over. You can do that on some projects. This one is going to take a few minutes to dry, probably about 10 minutes. But you can do 2 coats of this shellac in under 10 minutes. See, I can already feel it starting to drag up there. So I want to kind of hurry up. So then, I mean, that's how fast it is, and now I've got like half a sheet of plywood already done. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just wait the 10 minutes, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to recoat it again. I'm not even going to sand between coats. It doesn't need it. Yeah, I'm done. I can feel it starting to drag and pull. This is smooth air, but it's done. I mean, this side is almost dry already. I can see it. Now, I won't put you through the pain of talking for the rest of the 10 minutes on the video, so I'll skip ahead here. You'll see it skip ahead. But all I'm going to do is wait about 10 minutes for this to dry, and then I'm going to put another coat on it immediately. That will dry in 10 minutes, and then I can do a very quick sanding in between, and then I can just start putting the finished coat right on it. Now that the 2 coats of shellac have dried, and it's literally been about 15 minutes, and then it's ready to do some quick sanding. With respect to sanding, you can do this with 150 grit or 220 grit or even 400 grit. It doesn't really matter. You're just trying to knock some of the bumps down to make it relatively smooth. And then we're gonna cover it with some water-based polyurethane. So I'm just gonna quickly sand this up all across the board. And then when I'm done sanding it, we'll start with the poly. All right, once you've completed sanding everything, you can just take a dust brush like so and make sure that you get all of the additional dust that was generated from sanding off the piece of work so it doesn't get in your finished coat. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take some water-based polyurethane, as I mentioned. I'm going to open the can here. And again, I'm a big fan of the paper plates because it allows you to put just enough in there. You don't ruin, more expensive plastic containers and everything. And eventually you're going to do 2 to 3 coats of poly. And you can use the same pads that you used for the shellac, actually different pads, but same kind of pad. And then you're just gonna wanna kind of rub it in here and drag it along. Nice and easy. And you'll see it goes on pretty easily. And with these pads, you know, it's very quick to get this stuff done. And it's okay if it runs over the edge, because remember, this is plywood and you're gonna be, you know, either hiding the edge or screwing it into another edge, or screwing it into another panel. And you can just go along with the grain and make sure that you got 100% coverage here along the grain. Make sure there's not too many ridges. Like so. And back again. And then you just dip and keep going. Should probably move this out of the way too. Let's see. And before long, you'll have the whole piece covered. And then that'll be your first coat. And the remaining portion of the project is basically just to keep adding as many coats as you'd like. Now, you know, I recommend at least 2. 3 would be best. And so if you can get 3 coats on it, literally, you know, if you have kind of some heat in your shop, or it's a little bit warmer of a day and it's not so humid, you know, this stuff will dry pretty quickly. It's already, I can see, starting to dry in some places. So you're gonna let this dry from about 1 to 2 hours, and then you can sand. Again, I try to use like about 300 or 400 grit most of the time, but you're gonna wanna sand this over and then put on your second and third coats. And literally, because the shellac dries so fast, you can get 2 coats on in about 10 minutes and get it sanded, and then put your first coat on of polyurethane. And then if you wait about 1 to 2 hours, you can put a second coat on. So literally within about 3-4 hours, you can have all of the plywood that you're going to use for the insides of your cabinets done and pre-finished. And so we'll check back here in about an hour when this is all dried, and we'll put the final coat on. All right, it hasn't even been a full hour yet, and this is already dry and ready to be sanded. The conditions that I'm doing this in is that it's about 60 degrees outside and it's about 70 degrees in here, and the humidity is very, very low, so it's going to dry pretty quickly. So all I'm going to do now is take a 400 grit sandpaper, a piece of that, and just quickly, again, just like we did last time, just quickly go over it and get rid of all the bumps and you know, little things that get trapped in there, the dust and all that. And then I'm just going to apply another coat. So that's already very smooth, and it's starting to take shape here. So I'm just going to dust it off over here, get all the dust out of there so that I don't reintroduce that to the material. And then I can still use the same pad because I kept it wet in a little bit of the polyurethane. So I'll pour this again. And I'm just going to do the same thing that I did to the first coat. And I'm just going to apply it. And you'll see it lays on even nicer. Lays on even nicer on the second coat because it's not absorbing as much. It's now just kind of sitting on the surface. So I'll repeat this process again. And you can see also that the product goes a little bit further than it did before because the material, the wood, is not absorbing nearly as much. And so before long, you know, you're done with your second coat, and you just got to wait for it to dry. Now, if you're doing a bunch of kitchen cabinets, you know, you can do these as full sheets, you can do them as half sheets, or you can cut all your kitchen cabinet pieces and do them individually. didn't quite get all that. Depending on how much room you have. Again, the water-based polyurethane has a low VOC, low odor, so it's not really too bad to smell, and it dries, again, very quickly, depending on job site conditions, of course. And that's it. So now my second coat is on, and I'm gonna wait probably a little less than another hour. I'll sand this up again with 400 grit sandpaper, and then I'm gonna put the final coat on. And that's pretty much it. I don't think you need to see me do that. It's a repeat of what I just did. So that's all it really takes to produce your own pre-finished plywood. It's a very fast recipe. It's very solid. It's gonna last a long time. The shellac is used to seal it. You're putting a good bonding seal coat on there, and then you put 2 to 3 coats of the water-based polyurethane on top of that in order to get that good protective finish that you need. And it's very close to the pre-finished plywood that I get. I just get it in advance because it saves time and effort to do that. I can skip that step when I have my pieces cut. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out our Patreon page that we're uploading now, that we've been working on actually for the past couple of weeks. And I'll leave those links at the bottom of the video. And I appreciate you watching, and I look forward to your comments and feedback below. Thanks again.